Greetings and salutations. So this video is another idea slash construct video. Through a couple hundred hours of playtime and building ships and kind of getting my head wrapped around the energy management. This was one of my major projects in the last playthrough, and I think it probably collectively it's probably got about 100 hours of work. And this is one of this is kind of a step off from one of Randall's pioneer designs, but then I completely reworked it and kind of purpose built it per se. I was looking for something that was kind of an intermediate, something that could exist at a 4G gravity and then had enough life support to last for a long period of time. Also, kind of have like kind of be like a aircraft carrier, and then have enough internal space for the drones, and then also kind of mirror and work up all the logistics. But after going through this life cycle of playing this thing and really putting maybe 150 hours of gameplay while using this, there's a couple things that I realized through the gameplay. And this video is just about tanks and fuel storage. And so the issue that you run into is that where'd my pen there's a Pentaxid tank, right? Let's see if I'm out. Yeah, Pentaxid. I always get them mixed up between the blue and the pink. Okay. So your Pentaxid tank is for your warp, and your blue is for your everyday fuel consumption. And the issue that you run into is that with just this Pendaxin tank, I forget the exact amount because it's been a little bit, but I think it's like 6 jumps or 7 jumps on average. It's not really that much. It's a certain amount of light years because I think it's a 1-for-1 ratio. So this it says 600 volume, but I found myself having to store all my Pendaxin in just a storage in just one of these storage containers, um, because I would fill this thing up with storage container and then I would have to manually bring it over. And so kind of one of my recommendations is I think there's needs to be a multi-tier process to the Pendaxin tanks. And the the and reason being is when because they've opened up the galaxy and you spend so much more time out in the persistent universe versus on the planet because there's so much there, and you're looking for these really good POIs. And the POIs are kind of far and few between because you'll go on a planet and there might be 2 POIs. So you'll clear those 2 POIs and then you'll bounce out. You'll go to another planet. It might be all junk POIs. You go to another planet. You're like, ooh, bunch of juicy POIs. And so you spend a little while there. And so you find that you really start just cooking through the Pendaxin. And so they need to have, like, this looks like an injector. And I really would like to see a follow on. Like, this is a 1x1 or 1x2 block. I would like to see this be kind of reworked to where the small one is a 1x1 block. And then if you wanted to go to a kind of a middle, a larger container, that it looked more like a circular volume tank, right? Because it's your medium, and let's say this one held 6, and the other one, let's say it was so this, move this down to a 1x1 block that holds 600, and then the one that you connect to this one would be a 1x2 block. So they would link together, but it would double, or it would triple the amount of Pendaxin storage you had. But there was kind of like rules involved. So if you had one, if you had one Pendaxin injector would hold a minimum amount of 6, and then the add-on storage to that, let's say it was 1,200, and so combined you got 2,000 or whatever. It's not for me to decide how much total volume, but it would have to be directly linked to the injector in order for it to be utilized for its volume. And then the third Pendaxin tank would actually be a large storage unit. It would kind of be like these large fuel tanks that exist and then you could store the Pentaxin in one of these large, maybe they're the exact same image, but instead of having blue, they have pink, and they have a higher volume of capacity, so where you could really load up and store your Pendaxin, but they're not. But you have to manually transfer it out. It's not one of those things where it's like the other one where it's an injector. You have to manually, and it becomes like a silo or a tank farm where you can pre-store a large volume of your materials in a tank farm, and so you have this construct of um, three storage applications. You have your injector, right? And then you have your medium storage device that has to be hooked to your injector. And then you have a secondary kind of storage, which you could like this extra large. I forget if this is a large or an extra large fuel tank. I forget how they do these. Let me see here. It's the fuel. I think the fuel's under this. I forget. It's been a little while. Here we go. So you have your tier 2, and then the bigger ones are the tier 3, right? And then it's, fuel capacity 6,000, fuel capacity 2,700. So you get the benefit to go to the larger one. They kind of need to have a system similar to that for the Pendaxin, and they can actually use the same graphic, just change it from blue to pink, right? So you get that synergy. I would like to see, and this is the injector, because it looks like a Pentaxid tank. It looks like an injector, right? A Pentaxid injector, and come up with kind of a bulbous type of, um, uh, what is CO2 slash Freon kind of, saran fiber wrapped type of cylinder container, like it would attach to the back of this. I'm just talking creativity firms, but to kind of explore to push out your capability of the Pendaxin tanks to kind of, so where this whole warp drive injector becomes a system that has to have a rule set behind it in order to get it to really utilize its efficiency. And it would also drive that capability set, a certain, create kind of a rule set within your creativity. Because what I realized, and this what kind of led me down this path on the fuel capacity and the build, because this has even got, when I go in here, this even has additional empty storage to stack more fuel tanks. Because what I was running into was, I realized that what was getting me down this path is I had a bunch of crops in here. A bunch of crops. And what I realized is when I turned everything off except for the life support, I would burn through the entirety of my 30,000 volumes of fuel right here, capacity. So it would basically give me like a 1-to-1, an hour, a ratio for, so this would give me 30 hours for the 30,000 fuel. And I was trying to get it to where I didn't have to log in every day, but my crops wouldn't die. And so this, part of the realization of this is if I accidentally hit P, even though I had oxygen here, all my crops would die. And so I realized that, even though crops are a fantastic system, to a certain extent, they kind of need to be separate from your main spaceship, and they need to just be put on a solar farm. And I've built kind of a plethora of different solar farm, ideas and constructs that are on my workshop that have done pretty good for the most part. Like it's a much more viable system because I've accidentally killed all these crops by running either A, running out of fuel, or B, so it's better to have this tied into a solar system is a much better kind of a way to do the agriculture aspect of this. But that's what led me into all these tanks and this whole construct of tanks and how to manage fuel. And so I would like to see these large ones have a Pendaxin variant, but instead of having the blue, they have the pink, right, with the pink band and the pink light to kind of represent the management of Pendaxin storage, and kind of use existing access to um, kind of flush out capabilities in the game. And there's another topic that about warping to different systems, that there's a refinement that needs to be done there instead of going to galaxy to galaxy to galaxy. I'm definitely a believer. If you've already explored the connecting routes, you should be able to go from point A all the way like 20 jumps later. And if you have the Pendaxin in your system, it should allow you to do that because you've already navigated through all those galaxies and figured out your coordinates. And you should be able to just go from point A all the way to point Z and skip all the ones in between. And there's two benefits to that. One is it saves you a bunch of playability time, and then two, it's less load on the servers because you're not loading 24 times. You're just loading one time because you've already navigated that star system. But that's tied in. That's the second part of this kind of fleshing out this Pendaxin storage capability, along with the tank farm, kind of the silo tank farm, is you can pre-store this stuff. Plus, that makes it a juicier target for the whole PvP construct. They would have a reason to raid your base because they want the fuel that you've pre-harvested in your tank farms. So it adds a lot, kind of a baseline playability loop into the game that exists outside the realm of quest playability loops and mission playability loops and those other aspects. But I know this is a little bit of a kind of a run on, but it's just sharing kind of this construct of adding a little bit more of a follow through on the Pentaxid tanks. As always, thank you for watching.